their legends are told. Flashing lights and roaring crowd, in the ring they take their stance. Only pros and beauty queens, here they all get their chance. Thickies Pokemon League, the best and beautiful league. In the spotlight they gleam, living the Pokemon dream. From Bulbasaur to Charizard, strong and stunning and bright. Every battle's a star show, every match a pure delight. Electric sparks and fiery blaze, trainers shouting their cheer. This is where dreams are made, winning's our quest. Oh dear, Thickies Pokemon League, the best and beautiful league. In the spotlight they gleam, living the Pokemon dream. The Thickies Pokemon League, we're the best and the bold. Only beauty can compete, only legends are told. Flashing lights and roaring crowd, in the ring they take their stance. Only pros and beauty queens, here they all get their chance. Thickies Pokemon League, the best and beautiful league. In the spotlight they gleam, living the Pokemon dream. From Bulbasaur to Charizard, strong and stunning and bright. Every battle's a star show, every match a pure delight. Electric sparks and fiery blaze, trainers shouting their cheer. This is where dreams are made, winning's our quest. Oh dear, Thickies Pokemon League, the best and beautiful league. In the spotlight they gleam, living the Pokemon dream. The Thickies Pokemon League, we're the best and the bold. Only beauty can compete, only legends are told. Flashing lights and roaring crowd, in the ring they take their stance. Only pros and beauty queens, here they all get their chance. Thickies Pokemon League, the best and beautiful league. In the spotlight they gleam, living the Pokemon dream. From Bulbasaur to Charizard, strong and stunning and bright. Every battle's a star show, every match a pure delight. Electric sparks and fiery blaze, trainers shouting their cheer. This is where dreams are made, winning's our quest. Oh dear, Thickies Pokemon League, the best and beautiful league. In the spotlight they gleam, living the Pokemon dream. The Thickies Pokemon League, we're the best and the bold. Only beauty can compete, only legends are told. Flashing lights and roaring crowd, in the ring they take their stance. Only pros and beauty queens, here they all get their chance. Thickies Pokemon League, the best and beautiful league. In the spotlight they gleam, living the Pokemon dream. From Bulbasaur to Charizard, strong and stunning and bright. Every battle's a star show, every match a pure delight. Electric sparks and fiery blaze, trainers shouting their cheer. This is where dreams are made, winning's our quest. Oh dear, Thickies Pokemon League, the best and beautiful league. In the spotlight they gleam, living the Pokemon dream. The Thickies Pokemon League, we're the best and the bold. Only beauty can compete, only legends are told.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Thickies podcast. Got Machiavelli in here in the booth with me tonight. We're both 3-0, pretty good so far. A lot of moves around the league and a lot of big matchups. this week. Right now, the TPL trade talks are going nuts. We got a grace period coming up this weekend, and not this weekend, but after the weekend. Sometime in the next 7 days, a new grace period going to be active. A lot of moves to be made. A lot of trades around the league. One person who's been unable to make any sort of trade has been Willis, still dangling the scissor, but not many suitors at the moment wants to prefer to trade outside of his conference, but I'm just not sure he has the leverage to really make such demands. We'd like to get Scizor into Butler, but at this point I think the ship has sailed. We made some big moves ourselves. Machiavelli, how you doing tonight? My guy.
Doing good, man. Like you said, 3-0. Feels good, but the job's not finished. Got a big matchup this week. First time in 3 seasons since I felt a Swaggy Boy in the Final Four. Yeah, we've been thinking about that series ever since. So we're ready for this one. But a lot of other good matchups this week. Don't want to focus on that.
Yeah, been a long time since that season where Swaggy won and en route to the championship. He did pump you multiple times. Once in the regular season, once in the playoffs.
It was a mid pump. I 6-0'd him game 2.
Yeah, but the thing is, sometimes people get 6-0'd by random threats, but he really locked in, really pinned you there and got the 3 count.
Yes.
Mac was out and hasn't been able to replicate that same level of success since. Looking to pick up where he left off with that championship. Not that we're into predictions quite yet. Sergio says Swaggy's got this. Lee Rose the Demon says, well.
Search this.
Oh, well, Sergio takes it back. Not quite confident in the prediction.
Yeah.
Forgot Plus says he'll give Scarm. He's a troll. He's not even in the league. He wouldn't have been
honestly,
picked.
His little picture actually looks like him in real life. That little stupid ass toe with the tongue.
Yeah, if we had Forgot Plus, if we had gotten an application, it would not have been selected. But still likes to pretend and role play like he's in the league. A little bit of trolling he does. Not much to do in Chicago. You can't really go outside at night. You know, stray bullet can easily end your life.
Easy lunch, might I add. That
Tommy Tutu in the chat saying turn the music off, buddy. Not his buddy. Not sure who he's talking to there. He says something about it being sunny in the room until a tornado flew around.
I think he's on hallucinogenics, sir.
Incoherent babble from the Tutu camp, the Fort Worth camp.
Drug test that man.
Yeah, it needs to be drug tested like Angel Reese after she puts up a 13-point, 14-rebound game. What's going on there?
Let's get rolling, man.
Let's get rolling. Matchups. Castelia Conference. MRF, the rookie, fresh off a loss to yours truly. Did take a game off of me. Quite an impressive coach, I think. Kel's a bit of a veteran. Forgot Plus a bit of an idiot in the chat. Kel, I think, could walk away with this one.
Yeah.
But honestly, I don't know how to rank this as anywhere but a toss-up. I think MRF has a really great roster. You know, Ting Lu, Dragapult, Clefable, Iron Tread, Skarmory. That's a tough top 5. Rounds it out with Volcanion. And the bench may be a little lacking. And perhaps the defensive overlap with Skarmory and Ting Lu looking to set up hazards. I still think I like the matchup overall. Dragapult, even without the ability to terrestrialize, what a nightmare to prepare for.
Yeah, I mean, MRF did make a change after he played you. He did drop. Forgot who it was. He switched Clef to his Terra Captain now. So I would have felt a little bit better about Blaziken if Clef wasn't sporting the water Terra just to really make Kel think about something. But I don't know, it could help her, honestly, if Blaziken does force to go water. Iron Bundle will take advantage of some whatever that freeze dry.
Well, I don't think you can go water here, and I'll tell you why. If you're running unaware of Clef, you're going to want it to be able to take on the superior. Water, not really an option in that case. You cannot afford to take that Leaf Storm, unboosted or not. If I had to guess, we're not going to see a terrestrialization from the Clefable this series. But like you said, Iron Bundle threatening the water with the freeze dry. Blaziken, its strongest move still going to be the close combat unless it opts for the recoil with Flare Blitz. And unaware Clef gonna be more than capable of stopping those boosting threats. I'm curious
Gotta
to
worry about
see
hacks
how
though.
I'm curious to see how Kel will break through that. We'll need a crit or something, or some interesting tech to really break through that Clefable. It's going to be coming in just about every time. Maybe we'll see a Choice Band Blaziken or maybe a Choice Specs bundle. Try and punch some holes into that team. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
look
got
out for
this one as a
hacks though.
toss up. I don't see any other way to rank it.
I'm going Kel 2-1. I'll tell you why. I really like hacks behind Ninetales screens here. Yeah, Skarm can phase it, but I think after a while, if it rolls into a Blaziken going downhill, clicking Flare Blitz, majority of the team does not want to switch to that. I mean, Volcanion, probably your only one, right? And then if you look at Treads and Polt, they don't want to take Flare Blitzes. Especially Polt's going to get worn down over time. And if Polt does come, you probably will be fine by going up Ninetales. I think it's bulky enough to switch into, it can't Terra Blast Ghost like Chiva was spamming last season, right? So you're probably going to switch it to a Meteor or a Darts. I like Kel. I like Kel in this one. I think 2-1.
Well, and that's why I think Choice Band Blaziken could be a difference maker here.
Right.
Dragapult, if it does come in on a Flare Blitz, not going to be able to stay in after the second. Will be outsped due to the speed boost. Volcanion, really going to be reluctant to switch it on a close combat, but can switch into the Flare Blitzes if needed. So there's a little bit of counterplay there. Tingaloo can need a Flare Blitz as well. Does fear the close combat. This game's really going to come down to the Blaziken play, I believe. Possibly should have been a Terra Captain. We'll see if Superior is able to get it done. I still got it as a toss-up, but Machiavelli thinks Kel has the edge here.
Yeah,
And
I'm
important to
taking
note that
2-1.
Kel is fresh off a win against the former champion,
Yep.
and one of the who many consider to be one of the top 4 or 5 coaches in this league. And Frost EP did get body bagged by Kel last
Yeah,
night.
Mikey, you're taking some smoke from my new segment, Max Grinder of the Week. Coming up later, we have the Blaziken as my Grinder of the Week from Kel's roster.
Yeah, grind this. Anyway, we're going to go on to myself and Greedent now. Greedent and Frisian did swap rosters this week, going into this week, I should say. So huge differences in the team structure here. And I'll let you take the lead for this one.
Yeah, I didn't like Greedent's odds before the swap, and I definitely don't like him after. I mean, the tough part about getting a new roster is really just trying to get some playing time for the new guys. Darkrai comes over, you lose Raging Bolt, which I would have felt a little bit better about the chances. I maybe would have adjusted it from a 10% chance to take the series to maybe like a 15, but I just think that there's too much going on in forms of Urshifu right now. Which I don't know if the kills got updated. Let's check the board real quick. Nope, they did not get updated. Urshifu is still 1 on the board, really going to drop down to 2, I believe. Not a great week for Urshifu, did get clamped by the MRF defense, but I think Urshifu is going to bounce back big here. I just got to watch out. Could see some Cobalion tech running around, maybe Iron defense to stop some progress, but Green, good luck. Belly Bolt, going to get slapped.
We're going to attempt to slap the belly, and I think this is an Alchemy week. We're going to get Alchemy onto the field. We're going to set up and do some Alchemy things. We're going to do some little calm mind action, a little bit of recover. It can't be taunted, it can't be encore due to that ability. A little bit of stored power action. We're going to muscle our way past the Skeledirge. I think Alchemy gets the nod here. We'll see what happens.
Yep.
Frost DP versus Dev. Now, this is 2 former champions going at it. Dev, I think, has the superior roster.
Yeah, I touched on it preseason. I caught a little heat. I want to revisit my take. I did not like DP's team going into the season. I still don't like it. There's a reason every one of these mons on the roster right now is on the trade block. I like Dev. I like Dev on Saturday. I like Dev on Sunday. I like whenever they're going to play. I'm taking Dev. I just think Garg is really rolling. Lando looks pretty decent here, right? I mean, Scarf Lando is just an option to throw at, Meowscarada if you want to catch it with a U-turn. I mean, I don't know. I feel like he can play around his top guys, right? Moth is only going to come in with boots so many times. I think Gar can catch one of those guys sleeping. Cyclozar can just pass a sub onto a few of his guys. I don't know. I feel like Tauros Blaze, decent option into backs, right? Is that a Tauros week? I don't know. You got to watch out for Zapdos, get the static. But I don't know. I feel like Dev is... I think he's fine. I mean, right? You can click Cudgel with Wellspring pretty much, and then even if Slow King switches in, right? Forces a Terra if it needs to survive. I don't know. I like Dev 2-1. I think DP's going to steal a game, but I think Dev's rolling right now, man. I don't like those Knicks. He's really rolling.
Yeah, I'm not sure I like DP's roster a whole lot, like you said. I think Mioscarada probably a bit overrated. 110 attack for me personally just doesn't get it done in Generation 9. Iron Moth, I think, is a very nice piece and a very solid Terra Captain. Not sure if it's exactly that superstar that you need
No.
to really make waves. Does have Baxcalibur there on the bench. Probably going to be a starter here in this series. And I do like the Baxcalibur matchup. Now, keep in mind, Dev, his bench is quite weak. He's essentially playing seven Mons total.
Kind of like
I'm
Tibbs,
not
right?
sure.
Just playing Tibbs.
Yeah,
Tibbs short rotation, right?
very short rotation. Going to be running those Mons into the ground. I think DP does have a little bit of extra versatility there. The problem, like you said, though, the Ogre Pawn definitely posing a big threat. That Cudgel does not make contact. Zapdos not going to be able to really do much to that. Slow King, however, is a Terra Captain. Can use that to your advantage. Perhaps the problem is Captain choices don't necessarily resist grass. That Power Whip hurts, folks. That's going to be tough.
Yeah, and you force a Terra to get some clarity on the rest of the game, right? I mean, if he's going to Terra Dark, Tauros can just come in and click CC. I mean, and then you're really just downplaying, the momentum for DP.
Yeah, and I said, Meowscarada I think is a bit overrated in draft, but Meowscarada does have a good matchup here. Lando is not going to tank the Flower Trick critical hits through the Intimidate very well. Goldingo obviously doesn't want to take a knockoff. It does outspeed Wellspring, Cyclizar, Enamor. It outspeeds the entire starting lineup. Triple Axle going to be huge here. Nothing really wants to take that knockoff either. Now, Garganacl's the Terra Captain, but it is Rock, Water, and Ghost. It's no way for it to resist Meowscarada stabs with that combo. So it is going to be the difference maker here. I don't think Haunter, Honchkrow, and Vikavolt are going to see much play. And even if they did, Meowscarada does have the boots available for the Vikavolt. Maybe we'll see Scarfer like Landorus, like you said. There are cheeky ways to use like a Cyclizar as a Scarfer. Could be like a Scarf U-turn, Shed Tail Pass. Interesting to see how these two approach it. I think DP has the edge, though, just on matchup, in my opinion. So I'd give him the nod 2-1.
Yeah, I'm rolling with the Knicks 2-1.
Yeah, we'll sweat to check up on this one next week. So Staying Safe versus Chiva. Staying Safe, a pretty impressive rookie so far. Going up against Chiva, whose roster this season doesn't seem to be as strong as the one last season. What do you think about these two so far this season?
I think Chiva's really using the Deoxys speed, I think, in the best way we've probably seen it. I think the problem here is almost kind of like a selection for Chiva, right? Is bringing the right six. I think Chiva's probably got one of the deeper rosters in terms of being able to swap people in. I just don't see some of the value you're getting, like, non-Terra Chestnut is not something that I'm going to be really happy about here, right? Screamtail, Kyurem, even Regieleki can, just click Terra Ice. I mean, look at the roster here. If this is a week for Staying Safe to make a statement, which I've been waiting for that breakout week, he's been talking a lot of basketball in the chat, obviously loving the TPO. Where is that Staying Safe breakout week? I think it could be. I don't know. I feel he's got decent enough tech to counteract the Chief tech. Look for Kyurem to be a big player here. Possible DD scale shot shenanigans going on, right? That's something to look for here. I'm going to go Staying Safe in 3. The Atlanta man standing up.
Yeah, I think it's a good Cura matchup. I think it's also pretty good for Regieleki, right, who does outspeed everything, even the Deoxys speed.
Yep.
It has the option to use that Terra Ice. Or honestly, it could go Grass, too. I don't think it makes much of a difference here.
I don't know. Terra Ice E-Belt looks real good.
Yeah, the Ice does hit the Roaring Moon, so why not? And it just outspeeds everything. It's going to be a real tough matchup. Bronzong able to give you some relief, and Florges with its massive special defense stat. Of course, wonder what set we'll see from Staying Safe this week. But like you said, the Kyurem has a pretty decent matchup here. Zamazinta not bad either, really only fearing the Deoxys. Able to do quite a bit of damage to everything else.
Gambit too.
Yeah, if not one-hit KOing. May see Chestnut here to give some resistance to the Excadrill, the King Gambit, and the Zamazinta in the starting lineup there. Moltres, I'm not sure has much use here. So probably going to sit on the bench. And then, of course, the bench pieces, Reverum, Gligar, and Alolan Persian. Likely not going to see play.
may I cut you off? He did use Fairy Alola Persian to phase last week versus Greedent, so not really sure this is the week to be playing around like that. It's a big matchup. I mean, he may want to get cute, but I think you just stick to what works here.
Yeah, probably so. That being said, I think Chiva's just gotten kind of a proven track record at this point in the TPL.
Yep.
It's hard to see a rookie really knocking Chiva off. I think I like Chiva 2-1, but really, looking at the matchup, I think this could go either way. Finally,
I like staying safe here.
We've got Willis versus Sonny.
Yep. I like the enthusiasm from Sonny. Spunky trainer, I think is the term I want to call him. Just don't know if that spunk's going to work this week. But Caesar has to have a good set. I've not seen a good set from Caesar yet this season. Right? I mean, last week, if you just ran Choice Band BP into late game Wound and Spectre and whatnot, could have been a different result, right? I think he's going to get back to what works, though, versus Sonny. I just think he's, you look at Caesar here, right? I mean, T-Tar, you can have your way with it, pause. Cornerstone, BP, non-Terra, good chip. Gardevoir doesn't want to take, it's time, right? I'm just play Caesar straight up, get to what works here.
Yeah, Caesar could be decent here. Matchup-wise, I think Sonny's got a pretty decent matchup into most of Willis's top threats there. The problem is, does he know how to use them effectively? And I'm not sure he's proven that thus far.
No, non-Terra Latias doesn't want to face T-Tar. So that's something that Sonny has to definitely take advantage of, right? I mean, getting a free knockoff versus a lot of Willis's mons is probably going to help you late game.
Yeah, rough matchup for the Latias. Now that you mention it, it's got to get through Corviknight and Gardevoir and Tyranitar. That's really tough to do.
Yep.
May see it on the bench, and then if you've got your 19-pointer on the bench, that's tough to compete with another roster out there in that situation. Is looking to trade a few of his pieces, according to reports.
JJ Big Bottom did say Latias was available.
Yeah, that's very interesting. We could see a lot of moves here as we approach that grace period next week. Regardless of matchup, I think Willis takes this one 2-0, just given off these two coaches' histories.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah, we're moving on now. We got Swaggy Boy versus Machiavelli. Former champions both. Swaggy Boy has pummeled Machiavelli in the past repeatedly. 3 count very quickly into the match. Steel chair back of the head. Referee didn't see it. 3 count. He's out. And on paper, looking at these matchups, though, I think Swaggy does okay. You've got the Chien-Pao with the Ice Spinner into the terrain. Nothing really wants to switch into that. You've got Pagos, with the ability able to tank even a boosted hit from just about anything. That gives you pretty good counterplay options. And Gouging Fire, one of the only mons able to switch in and really check that Ogerpon Hearthflame. But on the opposite end, a lot of the threats on Machiavelli's team could be somewhat insurmountable. A Spathra with 1 Calm Mind suddenly becomes an incredible threat. Poltegeist able to shell smash and find opportunities thanks to being a Terra Captain, especially against a special attacker such as Keldeo. I really have no idea who's going to win this series, but as is tradition, I'm going to pick Swaggy Boy 2-0. 2-0.
Yep. Yeah, we're ready. Monday night, right around midnight Eastern, Monday Night Raw. We'll be ready. We'll have a good weekend. A lot of sleep, a lot of water. Might fast on Sunday, so we're not feeling heavy going into the work week. But this is the one we circled on our calendar, right? I mean, if you're looking for matchups, definitely have Maki in the back of my head. That's something I'm looking forward to playing. If I get the opportunity, of course, with the randomizer. But this is what you play for, right? This is what you sign up for, champion versus champion, right? To just lock in and showcase what you got.
Yeah, and on the other end of that, we've got Cyndaquil versus Tommy Tutu. Tommy Tutu loses activity week 2, does come back and pummel Lily Rose the Demon in week 3 when nobody thought he would even get the match completed. Walks away with a victory, and this week he's got Cyndaquil. I don't think Cyndaquil is going to be able to pull this one off. I think Tommy Tutu just a little more advanced, a little bit better of a coach overall. And I think the roster are going to be just a little bit better overall as well. Rotom W has a pretty good matchup into most of Cyndaquil's team. Gastrodon, Cancom. And you look at Cyndaquil's team, it's a bit of like a water spam with the Quaquaval and the Palafin. You've got the Ursaluna as kind of like a general wall breaker. Chansey and, the bottom half of that starting lineup, they don't make a whole lot of sense. And I'm not sure this is the type of roster that Volcarona really excels on. And you look at what it's matched up into this week with Claude Sire and company. Going to be real tough. I think Tommy Tutu takes it 2-0.
Yeah, I mean, there's an old saying. It's called a broken clock is right twice a day. And I don't really know what I'm alluding to here. I just wanted to throw a quote out there to get people thinking. I think the rosters aside, I just don't see an avenue. I think anything less than a 6-0 here from the 2-2 camp would be a failure.
Yeah, I think so. And Lil Luxio versus Maki. Now, Maki finally has a roster of her own. Lil Luxio, the rookie, looking to get his first victory in TPL play. And it's possible he finds it here. I think he's used Garchomp quite well early on. Hasn't quite been able to piece the rest of it together. Maki's top 5 is just really tough to deal with. And that Terra Captain Hydrapple, really tough, and a very, very bulky roster overall. Curious to see what we see from Garchomp this week. Does have some ways to really muscle past Hydrapple, Vaporeon, and Gliscor if it needs to. Choice Band, though, you don't really want to lock into that Dragon move with the Pheasantipity on the other side. And of course, both Hydrapple and Vaporeon having access to that Fairy Terrestrialization and Magearna. So you're going to have to look for a different angle here. And I'm not sure what that angle is, but Lil Luxio is going to have to find it. The Sun angle, I think, is more interesting because the top half of that team of Maki's, not a lot of Sun answers there, especially, Venusaur clicking Weather Ball in the Sun. And is also to muscle past Hydrapple and Vaporeon with its stab combos, right? So that's probably going to be the biggest threat, I think, to Maki. But Pheasantipity is a tank, and it can tank some hits from Venusaur as well. I just think the roster on Maki's side is so impressive. I think I got to go Maki 2-1 here.
Yeah, I'm going to go Maki as well. I like some of the scenarios for Luxio. I mean, late game, it's just getting the right mons, set up. I mean, that's the one thing, right? Gliscor versus Garchomp will be interesting. I want to see how that plays out. Just playing Luxio up close, I definitely think the talent impressed me as far as, a move-to-move type of trainer, right? He was making the right moves. Caught some bad luck, of course. Speaking of bad luck, Maki's been on the receiving end of that for a while. I mean, 2 people that have gotten bad luck back-to-back weeks. Only one came out on top, right? So, water always finds its level, right, Mikey? I mean, one of these trainers are going to have good luck roll their way. I think you can attest to that, right? I mean, if luck rolls, it's a game of RNG, and sometimes the gods just don't give it to you. I think Maki is going to have enough tech to get around Chomp. I think Maki will have enough tech to withstand possible Tornadus shenanigans, right? I think Weavile's somebody to watch for here. I'm going to go Maki 2-0, though. Close games, but I think 2-0.
Looks like we're in agreement there. And here comes Lily versus Lemon. Now, Lily is fresh off a defeat to one Thomas Edward Tutu. Nobody saw that coming, but Tommy Tutu did pummel Lily Rose the Demon, no way around it, who is now up against Limit. These 2 rosters, I think, one of the more interesting matchups we've seen so far.
Yeah, I just don't know what to think, really. I mean, I feel like Lily is sometimes really, really solid, and then sometimes I think there's some head-scratching plays, right, letting people set up in front of you. I think Limit's underwhelmed a little bit, but that was a big, strong-arm win, right? I mean, coming off of a disappointing, I think, couple games from Limit. But I think definitely picking up a win where it's one of those gotta-have-it games. You can't fall 3, right? Muscled a win away from RJ there, who was looking good with the ring. But I'm going to go limited 3. I feel like I still like Ape here. I think Ape is just a tough mon if you don't have the proper fortress for it. You have to build a wall and make sure you can take those raging fists. I don't know. I don't know. I think Ape is going to look good here. I think Hazard's still a problem for Lily. I think Lamora is just going to look to set up Hazards and, even Earthworm. I like Limit 2-1.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Iron Hands looks really good here. Can substitute even against something like a Moongus or Rillaboom or Blissey, perhaps, forcing it out. Flareon and Sandaconda unlikely to ever see the field, let's be honest. And that makes Iron Hands all the more threatening, in my opinion, especially if it's able to click that Supercell Slam, really get the electric stab rolling. And if it grabs a Swords Dance, that combined with the Drain Punch, I just don't see how you come back from that, especially if it's running substitute. And Lily is very familiar with Iron Hands, has used it many times, and is a favorite of theirs personally. That being said, Annihilate, I think, just due to the slower nature of Lily's team, I mean, what if you try to encore it with Ogerpon and it's holding a Mental Herb? Do you just outright lose? That's the way it looks.
Probably.
In the builder here. Yeah, so I think Limit gets it done 2-1. You're fresh off a loss to Tommy Tutu. You're not going to have that level of confidence, right?
No, definitely not.
So finally, we got Frisian versus RJ, another rookie bout here. Frisian on the other side of that trade with Greedent. What do you see here?
I don't know. This one's closer than last series, I think. I think Frisian is gonna have some growing pains, I think, with the new roster. How quickly does he adjust, right? I think there's a scenario where if Dozo somehow goes down, right? I mean, RJ is just going to overwhelm him with the Bass and the Barraskewda. So I think preserving Dozo is going to be key here. Raging Bolt will be key as well to hit the people, those guppies swimming around. You got to have that priority. So it's just tough. I mean, Thunderous could have a big series here for RJ. I think, just being able to hit Dozo for stab, force him out. Great Tusk isn't exactly a free switch in with Thunderous being a Terra Captain. You can do have that flying. Ice as well. So, yeah, I'm going to go 2-1 RJ. I think RJ is going to build some momentum here. And I think, like I said, I think Thunderous is a big player here.
Yeah, I think the matchup overall is pretty unfavorable to Raging Bolt when you look at the fairies on the roster and you look at the immunities like Toad Scroll, who also has very high special defense and is able to switch in quite easily. And of course you have the option for the Archaludon to even run Assault Vest or something similar. You are in the rain. I think that makes it even harder for Frisian. Fluttermane can easily overwhelm a Registeel, right, with no recovery, just clicking Specs Moonblast. And you really have nothing to take it besides that. And I guess that's true of a lot of teams, right? But this one more so because Registeel does lack that recovery. And as far as I can tell, it's your only fairy resist, barring Terrestrialization. And even then, you have to fear a Specs Fluttermane just blowing through like your Terra Steel Comfy, right? Probably not going to be able to switch in regardless. So looking at these two on paper, I think RJ has it. But keep in mind, RJ has, a win against Cyndaquil and an activity win against Tutu, so it's still really hard to gauge what his overall ability is. And I think Frisian probably finds a way to get this one done this week, 2-1.
Did not think you were going to pick the Frister.
Yeah, we're going to pick the Frister. I think he's got a decent enough matchup to where he can win. And, it could be a toss-up. These are two guys who, one we don't know a lot about. And Frisian, who's very volatile on a week-to-week basis. So, definitely excited to see how this one plays out. We're going to take a quick look at these moves here on the rosters. Obviously, the big one is Greedent and Frisian essentially swapping rosters.
Yep. I think Dozo was the only thing to stay. And
Dozo and Espeon, I believe, stuck around.
Espeon, yep.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think Frisian got the better end of it, personally.
Yeah, I'm not really liking what I'm seeing from the Greedent here. He is shopping the Urshifu, looking to make something happen. Problem is, though, I think it's probably your best Webs abuser if you're going to keep a Rockwanid. Plus, a Rockwanid can also wear down those water resist, making it even easier for the Urshifu. So I'd probably like to see him keep that there, but he does have the Komo-O as a Terra Captain now. And then Frisian taking on the Raging Bolt, the Great Tusk, the Halucha, Comfy. Just a big swap overall. Just have Mew at the very end of the bench there. Not sure Mew's going to be much of a needle mover this season for this roster.
Yeah.
One thing, you're obviously looking at Raging Bolt and Great Tusk, and you may be thinking, maybe I want to grab Ninetales, right? It is a free agent. And on top of that, you can run things like Specs Ninetales in the sun and just do a lot of fire damage, right? Something we've been looking at in Peckerton or Butler, as we're now known. I think, like you said, though, I think Frisian probably got the better end of this deal overall.
Yeah, I just think Bolt and Tusk as a pairing is just better. And then Halucha becomes your ace if you need a late game sweeper. Comfy's always, fun to use for, I think, one of the better 9-point. Definitely fits that bill. I just think you don't really have a role for non-Terra Suicune on this roster. Can't really see it bringing Mew either, really, unless you really have some tech. And Overkill is just kind of just there, right? So I think Overkill is a decent piece especially for 7. I think you do get value there. I think Frisian gets a B for his trade grade. I think Green gets a C plus. Just not really feeling the return, right? It kind of feels like the Luke of the Lakers. You give out Bolt and Tusk, you expect to get something back, and you're still left with Darkrai, Urshifu, and Como as your 3 main guys. I don't know.
Yeah, and Lily made some moves also, fresh off a Tuesday loss to Tutu, and it's Tuesday. That's his day. You don't want to play him on that day if you can avoid it. And Tutu showed why. Iron Crown, I believe, 6-0'd game 1. Is that right?
Yeah, he finally utilized Iron Crown the way he should. You got to wonder if he came up with that set himself. Nonetheless, I think he really found a way. You're right. Psychic Noise versus Mola, good play. Versus Pex, good play. His Peck, not a good play. But Lily, Iron Hands no longer the captain, stripped of the band. Really wish D-Knight would be a Terra captain on this roster. Was allowed to. I think it would feel a lot better about it. But Ogerpon, 17 points. If we're not going to Terra cap it, I really don't see the reason using it. I think in that series versus 2-2, I was saying to myself, I'm like, wow, imagine Lily could Terra right here and outspeed the Valiant and click Cudgel, right? Or just click a harder Cudgel into Crown and wear it down over time. Click it onto Clodsire. Rodom is obviously not switching in regardless, but even Chiyu, if it switched in, if it was playing, not taking it 2 Cudgels, Frost Blast, you outspeed and you're able to kind of do a little bit. Yeah, just wish you had that captain there, Lily.
Yeah. Big changes fresh off a loss to 2-2. I understand, wanting to make some changes after you lose to that guy, but I'm not sure this was necessarily the way to go about it. But I do think Iron Hands can be effective without the captaincy, and Ogerpon definitely wants it. So we'll see what happens out there. Does have the extra points to make Altaria captain. Might as well do it, right? Lily says they need to EV train their Toxapeck. Okay. And
yeah, just ride the bike up and down the route. And
we finally had some shuffling today. Jirachi, Metagross getting moved around. I dropped Jirachi, Luxio signs it, drops Metagross, you sign Metagross. Could have saved some moves potentially with a 3-way trade. Mm-hmm. Definitely need to get these trade talks ramping up as we approach the week 4 mid-season grace period. Finally here, due to popular demand of the fans and all of you at home who tune in. So next week, unlimited free agency and Terra transactions. Great time to flip the roster around, although I am hearing that the grace period does not extend to Mons returning to the same team. If you've already drafted a Mon this season or had it on your roster, the grace period will still not allow you to take that Pokemon back onto your roster. You will not be able to sign that Pokemon. That's according to both the curator and the producer. Any thoughts on that, Machiavelli?
I think that's the block back rule that we've been looking at as far as our lawsuit against the producer and the curator. Just got to change the nationality of my lawyer, get the paperwork settled.
Well, I'm hearing that just like Larry Hoover, the curator and the producer will both be receiving full pardons. and that Enamorous will never return to Soho. Yeah. But I don't think Dev is willing to part with it at any rate.
What's that now?
I don't block it all
you want. I'm fine with Ogerpon, bro.
Don't believe he's going to part with it. Ogerpon has a rough matchup this week. But we got some replay review to bring to you as well.
Yep.
We're going to take a look at that now. We got
New
Kel
segment.
versus Frosty EP. This is called something like the grind of the Mac or the mind of the Sack.
It's Max Grinder of the week, and I'm giving it to Kel this week for pulling out a scrappy matchup when we get this replay onto the TV here.
It can be tough to pull out at times, and Kel did pull it out this week.
Well, can we get it set it? There we go. Yeah, Kel. Saturday night, right? I think it happens. It was not in the state of mind to watch it, but I watched it after.
Yeah.
Kel definitely gets the grinder of the week here.
Early on, we see the Empoleon lead, almost like it's a Gen 4 matchup here. And then comes the Zapdos.
This thing rolling?
Trading hazards.
It's not rolling on my screen.
Yeah, well, why don't you play the replay at the same time I do it? That way you don't have to watch the one on the stream, which has a delay. All right? That might help. I mean, you're watching the stream, but there's a delay on the stream.
Producer doesn't pay me to think.
Producers in my ear are telling me we got a jackass in the booth. I think I got a pretty good idea of who he's talking about. Anyway, they trade hazards, and they trade the Empoleon lead there. We do see the Boots Iron Bundle coming in, clicking the flip turn, and not to say Boots Ninetales as well. Not going to have the Light Clay.
Look how weak that Flower Trick did do.
Didn't do anything. That 110 attack just does not get it done a lot of the time. And here is where I'm not sure. I didn't watch the replay. I was going to say this is where Kel wins or whatever. I don't have a fucking clue.
No, it takes a little bit here. Why don't you let me take over? Grinder of the week. Kel's going to get that screen up. Tinkaton's going to try to force it out. But here's the thing, right? You can go to a nice baton pass here. Here's your hacks. And it's pretty much a good setup there, right? I mean, you still get the switch. There's the DD. Here's the Terrifier, but here's the problem, right? Slowking's gonna eat that.
Just getting swept. Taxorus is a very powerful sweeper.
Yep. Yeah, and then there's the fairy immunity. So
yeah, and you do get the Zapdos to take it out, but at what cost? What do you have left?
Yeah, you want Slowking, right? Late game.
That shiny Excalibur with the pink hands is taking Stealth Rock damage. Probably a loaded dice set, possible Lumberry. Just not going to do enough damage to the Ninetales. That may even be Choice Banded, that Earthquake through the snow. Don't know off the top of my head. But you look at this matchup now, and Blaziken just eats. The Brick Break is a nice addition to the Tinkaton to break through the screens. But you are wasting a turn doing that to deal a meager 20% damage. And
and I just like the path, right? You don't really have to have your sweeper necessarily sweep. I know that sounds kind of redundant, but I think Hax's gameplay is okay. So if I eliminate Slowking, then late game Blaziken just has a lot of more ways to break down. I mean, even the Iron Moth, right, taking chip from that Hax wrist 2KO easy. But now Blaziken, what's stopping it late game after 2 speed boosts? Nothing. See a little.
Well, yeah, the big thing was the Zapdos going down too. You can't even fish for like a static paralysis on a close combat, and you can't anyway because once the turns start snowballing, even after a paralysis, it's still outspeeding, and you've got to play that game. But yeah, when the Haxorus did all that damage to the Zapdos, the Slowking was eliminated. It just cleared an easy path for the Blaziken. No way around it.
Kel gets the Castelia City Conference Grinder of the Week.
Yeah, but that's not the only series we have. Actually, we'll go back to that one for just a moment. Was there anything that stood out to you? We do have reports that DP is shopping the entire roster at this point.
Yeah, when I look at DP's team, and I mean, they're all grayed out right now on my screen. I'm watching the stream. But, if you look at DP's team, I just don't see an ace, right? I feel like every team has got their guy. Their go-to guy when, the things get tough. Late game, you click one button and you're able to take over. Excalibur can be that guy, but in a scenario where you have Ninetales, who's a pretty good answer to it, right? It resists the one stab and then is immune to the other. EQ just not doing enough under the snow conditions, and then you're forced out. It's either a free screen or you take it a Moonblast. You got to pick one, and either scenarios are late game, especially when you got Bundle who's chilling. No pun intended. And then Blaziken just clicking.
Yeah, based on the damage, I'm pretty sure that was Choice Band. We can get confirmation in the chat maybe. But between the Earthquake doing 42 through the snow to the Ninetales and the Ice Shard doing 30% to the Blaziken, I'd say that was most likely a Choice Band Excalibur.
Yeah, I just don't I mean, and Tinkaton does its role pretty well here, right? I mean, it eats a lot of Haxorus, non-Terra, obviously. So I just don't know. I think DP's got to switch. I mean, Zapdos solid. I feel like it's missing one Mon.
I think the
I think
problem is
Meowscarada.
that like 4 out of the 6 on Kel's team just do not give a fuck about that Tinkaton, right? Even if you're like a
Yeah,
Salt Vest or something, which I don't believe that set was anyway. No, it does have the Stealth Rock, was leftovers. She's not gonna be able to tank those hits repeatedly. The Ninetales, you can come in on it, but it's still gonna set up the Veil, and from there you've got to play around the Sandy Shocks, who discourages the Thunder Wave, and Blaziken and Haxorus, who are able to just punch holes through your team, and Polion switches in pretty freely against the Tinkaton, even with the weak ass Brick Break, right?
yeah, and
So
then Slowking just didn't really give you much too.
tough
I mean,
matchup, and if you can't get hazards up and you can't play the long game, Meowscarada just doesn't do enough damage to get it done
no,
ultimately. And you also think about Iron Moth, who I think is a fantastic captain, but you just don't really have that great spammable stab move. Like you can Fire Blast, but you're playing with the accuracy there, and most often you're looking at a combination of Sludge Wave, which is very strong, has the chance to poison, but the poison type, not really the type you want to lock into more
no.
often than not. And Fiery Dance, 80 base power. You can run Flamethrower, but even then, I think Iron Moth is missing that one like powerful stab option, right? Terra can alleviate this to a degree, but you look at the 2 top picks in his roster, and you got Meowscarada and the Iron Moth, both I think who lack a little something offensively, like you said, when they're the ace on the team. I'm curious to see what moves he makes. That is DP's first loss to anybody in the league other than yours truly. Something to keep an eye on there. Could the performance be slipping in wherever the fuck he's from?
Rana.
So, one more replay. We got RJ versus Limit. Rookie versus the variable Limit. Never know what you're going to get from this guy.
Yeah, I think his team is very unique. It didn't look like it was going to start off as a rain team, and then all of a sudden he started throwing rain. But this one went to 3, and it was a good one. But this is the one. Limit gets the grinder of the week from the Soho camp. As you really don't want to fall behind, right? Top 8 makes the playoffs. I mean, he can't really fall behind in this conference. I mean, it's kind of top heavy right now with myself, Maki, Swaggy, but you want to stay in contention and stay in that mid range. You don't want to draw one of those top guys early. But I mean, Fluttermane, not really a great matchup here for it. I mean, with Rillaboom just being able to click Grassy Glide and really just do a lot of damage, right?
And here I think you'd really like to see a Will-O-Wisp from that Wheezing. Strange team just not going to deal enough damage, and you do have the stab psychic attack from that Iron Boulder, breaking down your Galarian Wheezing. So Will-O-Wisp, I think, maybe a better option there. Will-O-Wisp pretty tough on the majority of Limit's team there. I'm not sure why we didn't see it there.
No, even versus the Ape, right? I mean, that's something to make him think about. I remember when I was prepping for Ape, I was like, all right, I'm just going to try to get hopefully or a T-Wave, right, just to stun its progress. I mean, Ape's one of those mons. If you don't take care of it early, it can really hurt you late game, especially if it switches into a lot of U-turns and whatnot, or Terra Water here, so it can switch to a flip turn, boost its Rage Fist. That's something to think about for RJ's side, but Arkelodon is pretty underrated, I think, here. Just didn't utilize it the way he did in Game 1.
Yeah, able to easily tank those hits and start to clean up here. Arkelodon in the rain, definitely a beast. This Greninja comes in with the Battle Bond, and is this the end of it? Is this all we've got? No,
It's a short game.
comes in and forces it out, but this is a short game overall, if I'm correct.
No, it's a short game, yeah.
That
so
close combat, I think, is questionable. With the Life Orb damage being revealed, I probably just would have went for the rain boosted liquidation. Greninja not terribly bulky.
No, so Game 1, Arkelodon set up early with Iron Defense, and I think just had its way with Limit, and then Limit came back late and realized that, all right, if I Weezing and Arkelodon, late game boom was really, really good, right? I mean, look at the bonds he he swept the Grassy Glide to clean up game 2. But game 3 is more of really just getting the ape loose, right? I mean, you have to get it loose in the rain. He didn't have water. There's the burn, Johnny. So now it's a race against time for the limit camp.
Yeah, I'm surprised we don't see a rest there. I mean, you're already +2 defense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not a terrible lot of counterplay there, but at this point, I mean, the Rillaboom matchup is just looking so good.
Yeah, I mean, you just got to preserve Weezing. You just got to get out of there, right? If you're RJ, I would have went to Pelipper like 2 turns ago. Right. He's just taking unnecessary damage.
And the 2 mons you needed to not get swept by the Rillaboom are both KO'd now, the Weezing and the Archaludon.
Yeah, just no reason, right, to keep taking Rage Fist. I mean, you switch out to Pelipper and then click a different move. I mean, now Greninja says, "Hello, how you doing? Good night."
Yeah, I mean, that's been the obvious in game since Archaludon and since Galarian Weezing went down. And maybe even earlier than that, when you let that Weezing take the Psycho Cut from the Boulder without Will-O-Wisping it. And, maybe he's fearing the sub. Kel has liked to run Substitute on the Iron Boulder, if I'm not mistaken. If not Kel, then others who have used it. That may be why we didn't see a Will-O-Wisp there. So we'll see how RJ bounces back this week. And this will really give us sort of an idea of how he stacks up in the league, right?
Yep, so Limit does get the Grinder of the Week for Drift Veil. Rillaboom put in work. Tough matchup. 2 mons out. Not tough anymore.
Yep, but anyway, that's all we got for you here tonight, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Bit of a long pod here. We're going to try to get some replay reviews up on the YouTube channel here very soon, even if it's a solo commentary from myself, Machiavelli, or Herondai, currently in the booth at the moment. Any questions, any shout outs, let us know in the chat. And we're going to have that week 4 Grace drop